One thing that I did learn that is objectively terrible about this country, you guys absolutely need to up the threshold for seating Knesset parties. My God, your political system is a nightmare. Jesus.
What do you mean? Could you?
I figure in like a coalition government, if you get 100 seats, my guess would be that your major parties are like 40 seats each, and then you got like a few smaller parties. The Likud is like, it's like 28 seats or something.
Yeah.
Your major parties are very small, and then you've got to have all this coalition building. And I don't know, I just feel like it lends itself to
but you just come from the perspective that like first past the post should get all the votes, like in America. So in all of the other states, they don't have this kind of method. So you have many small parties. So it's totally normal.
Also, you can only choose out of two options, and we have
primaries.
Quite a wider options.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, we've got primaries. You can choose candidates before they get to the major elections. I guess the scariest thing in this country is I feel like very small parties that otherwise wouldn't have that big of a say end up getting, positions in the government, ministers that wield more power than I think they would. Like, I'm curious, what do you guys think? What are the percentage of the population that actually supports, like Smotrich or Ben-Gvir?
Exactly like the mandates that they have in the Knesset. We think that they represent, like if they have 4 mandates, so it's about 6% of the population supports them. But, the big problem in Israeli politics is not that like small parties have too much power, is that we have so little of small parties, because it's just like a monopoly or a cartel, where you have less of the competition, so you have a monopoly. So in Israeli, we have too little parties.
Oh, so you think you need even more small parties?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well,
we have if you gain more than 3%, so you get represented. But if you're not, so you don't.
Yeah, it's something that you have to consider while learning the theory of games. It's a branch in mathematics.
Yeah, game theory.
Yeah, game theory. So I want to hear your take about hostages and deals with Hamas. What do you think? How can we rationally look at deals with that terror organization?
How can you rationally look at? I think that how you look at any deal, I think that deals with Hamas are pretty simple to know what you want or don't want. I think that it's a question of first principles in terms of what should Israel's goal be for the war. Once you have that figured out, then what a ceasefire looks like should be.
And from your perspective, like you said that you should support Biden or Trump, according to what's the your political view on politics, on geopolitics.
I mean, I support Biden I think that Israel should support Biden because Biden at least has a vision for the Middle East. And I think there are too many leaders that are short-sighted. When I look at people like Trump, I think that he's entirely narcissistic. He's in it for himself and for the photo ops. I think that Netanyahu is in it to hold the government together, to keep himself as the prime minister. These people don't seem to have the interest of the country in mind long-term. That's the feeling that I get. But
so about deals?
Deals, but like what should a final deal look like with Hamas?
I don't know, maybe final deal, maybe like this deal that is on the table right now with Hamas about releasing all kind of terrorists who did atrocities against the civil population and getting our babies, our mothers and fathers back home.
I think that, there are so many things. I think a deal should probably be reached sooner rather than later, but for things that are unrelated, I think, even to the deal. So one thing that I've learned while being here that I think is really tragic is I think that the revocation or the freezing of all the work permits from the West Bank, I think is a huge mistake. And the mistrust that Jewish Israelis have to Arab Israelis, not buying from them anymore, not hiring them for services, I think is also a huge mistake. And I think a ceasefire deal quicker in the Gaza Strip would alleviate that pressure more on the policy side and on the Jewish feeling side. So, but that doesn't really have to do with Hamas. It just has to do with...
But after October 7th, like, I wouldn't mind to buy a cell phone who was manufactured by a Palestinian manufacturer factory. I don't mind, but bringing him into my house, fixing a door, setting up my cameras, or doing all kind of those things, maybe in the worst case scenario, is intelligence for the enemy. Because after October 7th, in Kfar Aza, they said that those people who worked as gardeners, as people who do all kind of things in renovation and stuff like that in Kfar Aza, said that this house belongs to the guy with a gun. This house belongs to 3 babies and 1 mother, so she's on her own. So the intelligence from the people who worked there was a huge success, considering Hamas and the atrocities it did.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think there's good reason to be nervous about the citizens of Gaza, especially considering that Hamas is the government there. But I don't think that that's the same as what happens in the West Bank. I think that... Do you want to do something faster?
Yeah, so also I live here in Jerusalem, and on a daily basis I encounter encounters with Arabs, which is hard. Like, they're sometimes, many of the encounters are very aggressive. Like, just regular daily basis encounters are really aggressive. So it's not only terrorism, or it's just scary for women, for men, for children. Yeah,
I understand that, but like an aggressive and a scary encounter for you is what, a Palestinian being loud or raising his voice or shouting at you.
So I could walk on the street, and then in the car, like, he can open his window and like scream at girls, or honk or whatever.
Yeah, which sounds scary. A scary encounter from the Palestinian perspective is the IDF rolling into Ramallah and torching, an entire food market, or destroying a building, or raiding a home, or throwing flash grenades into homes, or arresting people and detaining them for 6 months without trial. Or like, I'm not trying to downplay your particular stuff, because it all plays into it. But there's like definitely like both sides have reasons to feel, I guess, pain from the other. And to minimize one side and to exaggerate another, I feel like both sides do this quite often. I think it's good to pay attention to what's happening on both sides. The one thing that shocked me, one of the ladies that I speak to down at you have like Hostage Square, where the Times was put up.
Tel Aviv.
Yeah. One of the things that shocked me listening to some of the people talk there, and I started to ask a lot more older Israelis about this, a lot of Israelis that lived in, I don't know if you'd call it the South or the Southwest, like near the Gaza Strip or even in Tel Aviv, have stories of like before disengagement, before the Second Intifada, going down to the Gaza beach, hanging out with the Palestinians, going shopping, talking to people, that was a fairly common thing, and they felt good about it. And the more that type of stuff happens, I think the better it is for everybody, because it helps people see each other as human more. It helps to have like societies working together. And it does things like materially as well. People are going over there spending money, giving people jobs. They've got things to do. Now you've got, like with the West Bank closed off, well, not only are these people now not seeing Jews anymore, the only places they're seeing them are when people would tell them horrible things about them. Now they also have less work to do, which is always horrible for young men. They've got less money. They can't build as much. Like, it just compounds everything so much worse.
Yeah, so what moved me from the left to the right was on 206, I was in a delegation to Wales with like 20 Israelis and 20 Palestinians. And I was really in the hard left. And we were talking, we saw each other face to face. We did a lot of training together and play games and stuff like that. And when we sat down to deal about the conflict, I asked them, okay, I'm willing to give you everything you want, like 67 borders, right of return, whatever you want. And they said, no. One state will be Jewish-free, like Judenrein in German, will be without any Jews. This will be the Palestinian state. And the other state will be a Sharia law state, which you will live as dhimmi. You will live as a
second-class citizen.
Yes, second. And I was like, okay, so if this is your last deal that you're going to offer me as someone who wants peace, as someone who wants to talk to Israelis, so really, fuck you. I don't want to do this kind of living as
second-class citizen, where another person has control over everything you do and what goes in and out of your country, and because that's what the Palestinians look like right now, right?
But we are not going to be secure as Jews, as history once again proved, as second-class citizen. We tried it for 2,000 years. They have another country, which is Palestinian, 90% Palestinian, which is the Transjordan, and they can live there.
You've read A Jewish Nation, I'm guessing, right?
What?
Or A Jewish State?
Yeah, Jewish
The
state.
Herzl- okay.
Yeah,
I read this recently.
Judenstadt.
When I look at Jewish people, they seem like very pragmatic. I feel like a Jewish person can look at a bad situation and see like, okay, this is bad. Maybe I can like get this and this, and then I need to get out. And a Jewish person will like make the best out of a bad situation. I feel like for an Arab, I feel like when they look at a situation, if they leave it, it has to be with their honor intact, and that seems to be a really important part in like a cultural difference between Israel or Jewish people and Arabs. What is your perception of the war in '73? Do you think that was a great success for Israel?
I think that it was militarily, it was a great success, but from the honor and dignity point of view, it was their great success.
Yeah.
Sadat really understood the Israeli public and what it can do to him, or even to his own public. Just crossing the canal. That's it.
Yeah. And I think that some people say that war needed to happen to adjust Israeli expectations downwards, that Israel wasn't always going to be able to win every war in 4 days, never be taken by surprise, never lose any battles, and that it helped move the Arab honor and integrity upwards. That the Arabs could feel like, the first few days of this war, we had them almost right where we wanted them, and it put them in a better place to accept peace, and it put Israel in a better place to accept peace. And for some reason, it feels like sometimes the sides can't understand each other. They can't communicate with each other. And it takes some big event where it's like, okay, well, finally we can understand this particular thing. And there is like this, I'm looking retrospectively, so I can say, oh, obviously, right? But there's like this ebb and flow to, there's no peace is happening with the Palestinians. There's a general discontent. The first Intifada kind of like boils over from that. And then it stops because of the Oslo Accords. And the interim agreement comes and goes. Oslo 1, Oslo 2, Wye Memorandum, Camp David, Taba, failure, and then the second Intifada, right? And then after that, you get disengagement. There's like this ebb and flow of like peace leads to war, leads to peace, leads to war. And something has to happen to where, I feel like the Palestinians, when I go through, I went through 2 refugee camps, and I went through their cities.
Well,
Oh, fuck, you're going to make me...
Okay.
No, I'm sorry.
In the West Bank. In the West Bank, right?
They were near Ramallah. One was near Ramallah, one was near East Jerusalem.
Okay.
And as I go through these places, one thing that we don't understand in the West is refugee camps are not places where people are poor and starving. They've got iPhones, they've got nice haircuts, they've got cars, they look nice. And the Palestinian people are the second most literate Arab group in the world. The education, for all the horrible things that UNRWA might have done, and trust me, there's no shortage of criticism of them, they've done a very good job at educating them in some things, and in other ways I understand we disagree. But these are people that are primed for success in a lot of ways. But there has to be some agreement that can be reached that has that honor, integrity thing intact. Because when I talk to any Palestinian, and maybe there are more that I haven't spoken to, I can't speak to everybody, obviously. I've probably only spoken to 20 or 30 in extensive conversations the past few weeks. Like, you ask them, like, I can give you everything, okay? You can have the biggest house, everything you want. Would you rather have this here, okay? This huge house in Nablus, okay? All the running water, Israel can't turn off, everything you want. Or do you want to move back to Jaffa? I can't even finish the sentence. Like, I want to move back. I want to go home and start over. I'll start over where my grandfather came from. There has to be a way to work a deal out there where it's honoring that integrity. Even if it's Israel saying, listen, we're only going to let 10,000 of you in, but we recognize the right of return for everybody and we fucked up. It has to be something.
Do you think there's a difference between anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism?
I think the motivation is